Hey guys, welcome to week 3, assignment 3. Another in the series of fine, high quality video critiques from yours truly. God, that's so cheesy. Um, so yeah, this time around we're going to be looking at your panorama images. And we're going to be looking at Shen, Shelly, Tina, and Sherry. So yeah, sorry that I'm posting this so late. I've spent the better part of the last 2 days in a car going on a road trip that I didn't know I was going to be going on until about an hour before I left. So I was strongly considering just doing written versions of these, but I mean, you guys seem to like them, and I feel like this way of doing it is a lot more helpful to you. So yeah, so they're going to be a little bit later than I would have liked, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into them. All right, so first up, we're going to be looking at Shannon's work. And first off, I thought this turned out really cool. Where is this? For some reason, this looks familiar to me, but I don't think I've actually been here. I think it just reminds me of somewhere that I've been to. But I like this. I think that this has a few things going for it. I think that the snow is actually adding a lot to it because it's sort of visually simplifying the image in a way that I think serves the content overall. It again, it's a very long panorama, which I like. I feel like that goes well with your content because everything in here has a really long kind of horizontal feeling. This, what I believe is a dam. It looks a lot like a dam. It definitely has sort of a long horizontal feeling of movement to it. You know, like even a lot of these things here, like a swing set has a real long, it's longer horizontally than vertically. This sort of little shelter here, what do you call that? It's not a gazebo, but like one of those sort of things in the park that you have a picnic under. Again, another long horizontal thing. They have a lot of these. I mean, even the picnic tables are kind of long and horizontal. You have a lot of images, a lot of elements in your image that are long and horizontal, and I feel like it goes well with this format. So good choice on the format, although I mean that was the format that we were using for this assignment, but I feel like you did a good job of picking a subject matter that went well with the format that we're using here. In terms of the actual process of putting it together, it looks really seamless. I mean, I don't see like, a lot of times if you look up in the sky of these, you can sort of see sort of a natural part of photography, which is near the edges of your image, it gets just a little bit of fall off in light. And again, that's part of the reason why we overlap so much, is just to sort of get rid of that. But the brightest part of your image is the center, and you don't really, sometimes you can see it by just slightly unfocusing your eyes. But I mean, this is seamless. This is actually a really good job. I don't see any of that sort of thing here. So this is the original panorama version, black and white. I think this is like a black and white with selenium and like just a little bit of texture that you can see here. This, I think, is actually my favorite version of this, because I feel like there's a lot of strong formal elements in this image, more so than like, I feel like the formal elements are more important to the image overall than the color elements. And with this, when you convert this to black and white, what happens is you get, obviously you're removing the color elements, you get more of a focus on those formal elements, on the shapes, on the way that sort of these various things play off each other. I think that's actually to the advantage with this image. The other version was, again, it wasn't like a real strong. There wasn't like a lot of real strong color images, although there was some like blue in here, sort of some brown in here. But I feel like removing that element actually strengthens the image overall. And then I just want to go down here real quick. I take it back. This I actually think is the best version of it. I like the removal of color, and I feel like the slight bit of brownness added by the sepia is actually, I feel like, goes with what's happening here a little bit better than the the selenium, the slight tone that comes with the selenium. It's like mostly gray. Boy, it's a real toss-up. Every time I look at one or the other, like, I feel like that's the more successful one, because there's there's a little more grayish, slight bit of bluish purple in there as opposed to the brown. I think both versions look great. Either one, really, either one. I think they both are looking good, but they both sort of, I think, function in that same way of removing the color to focus on the formal elements and sort of the shapes and relationships between things. Now she submitted another version of this that I just want to give you a peek at briefly here. Not a ton different, but let's you can sort of okay, so this is the not the version we were just looking at, but the other version. I don't know. I'm curious to see what you guys think. I think that I actually might like this version better. Simply because I feel like the dam itself is slightly larger in the frame. And like this part of it is a little bit closer to, again, it's not quite the same because it's the rule of third lines. I feel like it's funny because this, with the texture and this and that tone, really does look like an old, like this could have been shot like 50, 60 years ago, like on black and white film. This feels like a slightly more contemporary version of it, but I feel like I feel like this, it's slightly larger in the frame, and I feel like there's just a slight bit more contrast, and stuff in there that I think really works well. All right, well, nice work, Shannon. Thank you. Go ahead and close these out. Up next, we have Shelly. I'm going to. Oh, these were the 8 images that Shannon used. Let's look at Shelly's here. Okay. Sorry, get back up here. So I'm going to zoom in here. And again, this is she started off by sort of posting the contact sheet of the images that she used. And you can see those. I thought this was a good element to end on right here. I'm going to think of it that way. Okay. So, as you can see, this first version came out pretty dark. Now, part of what you're seeing here is just from differences in exposure. Now, this can happen a couple of different ways. One way is that the lighting can change. For example, if the sun was out, if the sun was behind a cloud when you're shooting sort of these ones, picturing those ones up there. Sun was behind the clouds, sun comes out for a minute, sort of opens it up, sun goes behind the clouds again. There's one way you can get that. The most common way that this happens is usually that when someone's shooting, they have their camera set on either automatic or program setting. And the slight differences in the way that the camera meters through the lens is what causes, you can even see if we come back up here, the slight differences in the exposures themselves. So whenever I do this, I use my handheld meter and I just pick a setting, even if it might slightly be off of the best overall setting. And the reason for that is simply that you'll have the same setting um, on every image. So you put it in manual mode, and just every single one has the same setting. Whereas if you let it, if you leave it on, say, program or automatic, it's gonna, for each frame, it's gonna, look at all the values here, and say this one has slightly more dark, or excuse me, actually slightly more lighter images in it. It's going to give us a slightly darker version than this, which has more of these slightly darker elements in it. Overall, the frame is going to be lighter. So you want to make sure that it's on manual, and that it, that you just pick one exposure and go through. Even if it's slightly off, you can correct that in Photoshop or Lightroom. This is actually quite a bit darker than any of the frames up here. Not quite sure what happened with that. So yeah, that version. It's also a little bit blurry. I do like, though, again, it's a real good candidate. This is a real good candidate for a real long panoramic image, because you have, again, a lot of a lot of horizontal elements in the frame. Like, overall, it feels very long and stretched, even if it was just like 1 or 2 frames here. The majority of what's happening is sort of horizontal like this. And I like sort of the way that this is balanced here, the hotel and stuff, with this guy right on the edge. Although I'd probably have him be just like slightly over, more like that. But I do like that guy's there. I feel like that does kind of add an element of balance to the image. So here is the final version, and a lot of the stuff that we saw in that initial one is gone here. Now there's just I don't know if this is from the process here, the slight, the way that the shoreline kind of does that, or if that's actually from the image. Yeah, I think that's from the process, because you don't even see it in this here. But yeah, you see, like, a lot of those problems are gone in this version. Still slightly blurry. I'm just gonna pop it out so we can get more of the effect here. I actually think this is pretty good. You can still see just a little bit of that sort of fall off on the edge of the image that I was talking about, the light fall off. But overall, as compared to even like this version, where you can see, like, sort of what's happening there. Yeah, I think that final version is the best version. And I do like, again, just the long horizontalness of it, this balance with that, and then there's just kind of, I do like this almost like slight vignetting that's happening here. I feel like that really is kind of a cool element to work with. So yeah, I think that's the version. I love how long this is. I feel like that, if you printed this, like this edge was like, say, 10 inches, like right here, like that would make a really cool long print that you could look at. I don't know, in my opinion. So that was Shelly's. Let's look at Tina's, which is right here. Sorry, I forgot to scroll back up here. So hers is, sorry, a little bit of light on my computer here. I'm actually going to zoom in on this too. Alright. Okay. So, I think we pretty much got the full thing here, top to bottom. Yeah. I like this. It feels... No, it might just be that I have been in the snowy, cold mountains up here in the high altitude Rockies where I live, but this is just so lush and green. I love all the greens this, and it feels very sort of, like domestic, kind of like this was Keena's neighborhood or something. But I like this. I feel like It's funny because this feels definitely more in terms of the, like, you know, we're talking about how with Shelley's it felt like very horizontal. This doesn't necessarily feel super horizontal. If anything, it's got a lot of sort of almost diagonal going towards vertical movement as you go in there. But I do like sort of the wider view that you get here. I'm going to zoom out. Okay, I did go pretty far. But yeah, even like looking at it slightly zoomed out like this, it still does have a lot of vertical movement in it, but it doesn't feel like, I mean, it feels like it fits. It doesn't feel like out of place to have that vertical movement within this frame. Because there is a lot of sort of, you know, there's like all these vertical elements with these trees. There is also kind of a horizontal thing happening here. Now looking at the two different versions, I actually think, boy, I do think I like the color version, although I do like a lot of what's happening with some of these sort of tonal values that you get when this turns black and white, like some stuff in there that's got some real nice visual texture. But I still gotta say, I like this. It's really, in terms of color, it's really nicely balanced. Now, I mean, like in terms of white balance, like there's not a color cast to it. It's really well done, and I don't know, I like all the green. I like a lot of what's happening here. It's funny because green's not necessarily a warm color, but I feel like a lot of warmth from this image. Of course, I guess, I mean, even within the green, there's like a lot of yellowish sort of tints in the green. I don't know, I like this. It feels like comfortable in a way that I just think is nice. So yeah, that is Tina's. Now, last but not least, we have Sherry's work. Now, hopefully this is at the zoo or something, because I hope that you didn't risk your life to get this image. Although, I do, again, talking about, you know, I think with these panoramas and stuff, it's hard not to talk about a lot of directional elements within the frame. And I think it's really cool how, again, these alligators are like long and horizontal across the frame, right? And they're kind of overlapping each other. So you have this, like, again, long horizontal mass of scary reptiles in your picture, and it's sort of mirrored with the format, which is, you know, again, the long horizontal format. I also like, I mean, there's a lot of subtle things in here that are again, doing that long horizontal thing. A lot of this is sort of levels, like little swirl and stuff in here. It's sort of making almost like an oval, like this long horizontal oval. Now you are getting just again a little bit of that light fall off that we're talking about near the edge of the frames. The way to get rid of that is to do a little more overlap. But let's take a look at some of the other versions of this. So you got the distressed. I think I like the original over this, although I do actually really like this next version. Vintage antique plate image. It does kind of feel like a sort of vintage antique. What I like about this is it really, you get a lot more emphasis on the alligators themselves because they stand out more from the background. And that really does, I think that's probably one of your filters from that package of filters that you were talking that you had. I think that's actually pretty effective with this. It definitely gives a different look, but I like sort of all the sort of lower mid-tone, upper shadow sort of tones that you have going in here. It really does kind of emphasize the visual texture of these guys, and they're also kind of dark, which is interesting. It somehow like adds to the menace of them somehow. But yeah, the way that this is sort of has this light like reverse vignetting thing going on along the edges, I think works really well with that content. This is probably actually my favorite version of this. Despite, I always am a big fan of this sort of distressed look, but I feel like the alligators, or maybe the crocodiles, probably want to say alligators. I don't know, I should know because I used to live in Florida. Oh, ha! Gator. It says gator right there. Okay. So I usually like this look, but I feel like they're getting a little bit lost. Like they're sort of blending in the background a little bit there. Whereas with the vintage antique, they're really kind of popping out. Infrared. To me, my focus goes right here. And I think that area looks really cool. But I don't know that it really is highlighting sort of the subject of it, which is the alligators. Wow, you did a bunch of different versions. I do like this version, although not as much as the one I talked about before liking. I think, again, the alligators are standing out. I like the dark, like kind of black-green thing that's happening with the water. I'm not a fan of this effect, because I'm not sure that it goes with the subject matter. Alright, and then here are the 5 images that she put together. Yeah, got a good amount of overlap here. I think, though, you can see, if you just like kind of look at the frame, you can see where there is just a bit of a light fall off here, which is, I think, because these are sort of, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of going off on a bit of a thing there. Never mind what I said, but now, so yeah, that brings up an interesting question. You do have 5 images there, and yet in your actual thing, it might have more to do with overlap. I'm just looking at these sort of areas here where you're getting like the dark lines coming through, the dark vertical lines, and I think that might have something. I mean, it comes from the fall off on the edge of the images themselves, but usually you see it more strongly, like that. It might just be it was getting darker there. I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to ramble a little bit. So yeah, coming up to the end of the video here, the word that you want to post below this link to let me know that you watched the video is hairspray. Why hairspray? I don't know. Just cause. You can think of the movie Hairspray, either the newer version or the old version. You can think of just the hairspray like that you put in your hair. Whatever you want. In my mind right now, I'm imagining someone with big 80s hair and like curled bangs. I don't know if that helps you at all. Probably not. It's amusing to me though. It's kind of fun to imagine in my head. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for watching, guys. And again, sorry that this is getting posted a little bit late. But yeah, I really just wanted to be able to. I just feel like these are so much more helpful to you guys than I was just gonna write out all the text. You know, I mean, not all the text, but I was gonna write like a text-based critique of everyone's. But I think you just get so much more out of these. So, so yeah, so they're late, but I hope that you find this helpful.